Hey, hey. Decoding your body's symptoms. This is probably my favorite topic since I have been a teenager. Um, I wanted to major in psychology for this reason because I was always looking at why is the body like this and why is the emotional system like this and why can I see this and why can I feel this and like let's just decode it and try to understand it. And so it's no question that I am a chiropractor, owner, founder of Healing Touch Chiropractic, and also a mentor and a coach, and an author and a speaker and all the things. And so I have a tendency of going deep. Oh, for those who know me, this is where the truth lies. This is where healing starts. It starts when we're honest with ourselves. So I have a lot of intro, and that's what I consider today to be. Part 2, part 3, and however many parts I have is going to be in the Heal Masterclass tomorrow. If you notice that I do this, it's kind of bright, but it gets a little bit too dark if I shut the blinds. Tomorrow and Thursday night, the Heal Masterclass, I'm really going to be breaking this down, not only from what I see at the table and in the body, and really looking at that methodology that I have been very curious about. I've always been very curious about, like, why is the body doing this here and not here? Why are the energetics like this here and here? Why, if the emotional system is like this here, it's not here? And because I have my hands on, like, thousands of people very often, I've really created my methodology in it, and being able to see the body and scan the body and understand what the what organ systems involved, what other, like, skeletal, circulatory, what system is involved across the board. And that has helped me then bring this into the starting point of, like, how do you actually decode what your symptoms are? So in the Heal Masterclass, I'm going to have some one-on-one time with people who want to ask about their stuff going on. But really, I want to just start today with what 2 things does it actually take to know what your body's telling you? 1, regulated system, and 2, awareness. Now, these are loaded. Because a regulated system, like, how do we get a regulated system? These are the questions that you're going to start to ask. I have all these pop-ups. You're going to start to ask questions of, like, well, how do I do this? That isn't the right question to ask. The right question to ask yourself is, can I start to feel these things? Not, hey, Tiff, if you told me to do steps 1 through 10, I'll do them. That won't work, guys. That won't work. The key to this, quote, working is you paying attention to your body, being aware of your body, being aware of your mind, being aware of your emotions and your feelings and your purpose and your energetics, truly. So this is very layered, but I have simplified it for today as to some premises that I really want you to think about, some belief systems that I want you to think about. And whether you're new to my world or you've been in it for a really long time, it's likely that you haven't asked yourself these questions. So if you have chronic issues, if you feel sick, if you're looking to just go to the next level of health, all of these questions are relevant as we continue to grow, as we continue to expand, as we continue to evolve, not only in our health, but our home and our marriage and our wealth and our abundance and our happiness. I posted yesterday or the day before on happiness, and it was that happiness is the comeback story. And I love that. I don't know where I read it. I read it somewhere. But what's the point if it isn't to be happy? And happy has been superficially bastardized. Happy is not without fear. Happy is walking with fear. Happy is not content. Happy is challenged. Happy is not bored. Happy is not without conflict at all. And we've been fed a spoon of lies that in order to be happy, we need to take all of the, like, people that don't fit your values. We need to take all this like sticky situations. We need to take all the conflict and the arguments out of our life. Well, then what do you got? What do you got if you're not chasing your dreams? What do you got? The same thing, except there's no freaking excitement anymore. So I'm going to ask questions, or I'm going to share statements, and this is something for you to keep for a long time. I understand some of these will be deep, but that's the point. You being able to decode what your body is telling you requires you to not be numb anymore. It requires you to not focus on your trauma all the time. It requires you not to be in fear and in control. And I would say 99% of society is what I just said. And so the work is unwinding numb and angry and needing to be in control and recognizing you first and being aware of you. So first two things that we need in order to decode anything in our body, whether it's how we feel physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, is one, are you regulated? AKA, are you getting adjusted? Are you doing this work that really starts to reset the system? And two, are you aware? Do you know what your body's telling you? Do you pay attention to what is being felt everywhere? So, some statements, some beliefs I want you to dip into. The goal here, the goal in our body, the goal in our life isn't to be calm. The goal is to be regulated. The goal is obsession with life, not waiting for it to happen. The goal is happiness, which is walking with fear, not boredom. The goal is clear, quicker decisions that are tied to your gut. The goal is more gut, less thinking. The goal is detachment and letting go versus attached to most everything. If you're attached to one thing, it's likely you're attached to most everything. The goal is feeling it, not dwelling on it. The goal is acceptance of self, not judging self. The goal is to know the different voices of you, the different voices of your body, of your mind, of your voice, of your heart, of your thinking, of your vision, of your purpose. It's not thinking. So you can see why these are belief systems that you've believed to be true, or you haven't paid attention, because many times we don't see it until we need to see it. And once we see it, we can't unsee it. And when we unsee it, we become more sick. When we try to unsee something that is giving us a sign, we become sick. What is making us sick? Just a hypothetical question. By the way, is anybody here? I see 8 of you are here. Can you say hi? I know there's a little bit of a delay, but if you're here, please say hi. What is making us sick? Hi. Hi, Sheena. Hi, Chrissy. Yay! If you have thoughts, questions, hi, Lindy, put them in here, please, and I will answer them. Hi, Doc Lo. Hi, Mo. Yeah, I love when people are here. Hi, Ange. That's so exciting. So what is making us sick? What does sick mean? I'm curious. Can you put what sick means to you in the comments? What does sick mean in through your lens, through your perspective? what it means to me. First and foremost, when your basic needs aren't met, you can't go any further. I had a conversation with somebody quite a few years ago, and we were talking about why he doesn't sleep. And at that point, he was probably 60 to 70 pounds overweight, a 30, 40-year-old dude. Shouldn't be on a CPAP machine. And I'm like, well, before you go to the doctor, there's really nothing else you need to do except change your food, drink some more water, and start moving. He looks at me. He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, has no doctor told you this? No. And so continued to have a conversation, and I said, well, if you're not following what I'm talking about here, until you lose 60 pounds, it's going to be hard to sleep because it's hard to breathe because all your weight is on your chest and your belly. And he's like, well, shit. Yeah. I said, has no doctor ever told you that either? No. So we're chasing a diagnosis before we're even taking care of ourselves. We're not taking care of our food and our water and our mindset, and we're not in the sun. We're not moving. We're not in nature. So, like, why would we expect not to be sick? And yes, when we don't sleep, we start to become sick and crazy. When we don't move, that same thing happens. When we don't eat real food, that happens. For some it's quick, for some it's not. But what I consider sick is when something is out of alignment in your food, in your water, in your bowels, in your sleep, in your mood, in your movement, and not being in the sun, not being in nature. So I know we want to chase all this stuff. We want to chase the blood test, and I'm not saying any of that's negative, because I think it's a really great idea to have a full panel. I'm working on solutions on this every 6 to 12 months to see where you're at. But I don't believe in the next steps that we are addicted to. We're addicted to if this, then this, if this, then this. That isn't how our body works. It doesn't work linearly. It doesn't work in a blood test. It's not because this blood test is low, then we should add this supplement, that we should add this medication, that we should be on a lookout for surgery, that no. The back to the basics. This is part of like decoding your symptoms. You gotta know. You gotta know what your body's telling you. And how would you know what your body's trying to tell you if we're not taking care of like the necessary things in life? And then why do we think that the next step is to get a diagnosis when we aren't doing our part? At Healing Touch, I frankly say, like, this is a partnership. We can't want this more than you. And if you're not holding up your end of the deal, then we need to have a different conversation, because the same thing can't be happening over and over and over, you expecting different results. Definition of insanity. I think sick is taking medications, over the counter or allergy meds, Aleve, acetaminophen, or any prescription, because something's not working right. Once again, let's just go to the basics. Let's go to where this came from, and let's work on this before we start chasing anything else. Sick. I'm going to read these. Our thoughts, unhealed emotions, trauma, feeling unwell, feeling not like herself, detachment from self, trying to control everything and let the stress get to you. Every single one of those will make you sick. I promise you. To my point, what's making us sick? Control. Exactly what Chris just said. Oh, I forgot another one. Living in boredom, living in repeat with no excitement, living with medical issues or no sleep, or poop issues, mental fog, or lack of life. Control. I was talking with somebody the other day, and we were talking about the cycle of death. And in the cycle of death, she had a close friend that just passed, and it was a struggle. The end was a struggle. And she was talking about how heartbreaking this was, and everyone just kept saying, like, hey, you need to let go. I'm like, isn't this the circle of life? Like, isn't it at the end that we're really meant to be trained to let go? But we aren't. That at the end, when we leave this earth in our physical body, and it's difficult. Imagine how difficult that was on Earth's side. That competition, the control, the need to fix, the need to prove, the need to have everything figured out, even if it's not, show the world that it's all figured out. I just posted a picture from my dogs this morning. It's an absolute disaster of a walk. Now, we have some puppy walking issues. And we had somebody in the house. And so I thought, well, perfect. I'm gonna take him on a walk. And I knew I was not very comfortable because I knew Belle wasn't going to be good. And I lost my cool so many times. I thought, oh my God. If I'm observing myself and if I'm observing my body, I was so angry. And then I went into embarrassed. And then the shame around, you can't walk your dogs? Like, I know the key part of our animals is the owners. Like, let's look straight in the eyes at the problem here, and let's take responsibility for what we need to take responsibility, and then we'll find solutions for the rest. I thought, my God, I am sick of this. An absolute temper tantrum through the whole walk, on the way back. I'm like, wow, this is not chill tiff. But we're not in chill tiff. And I got in, and I spoke what I thought needed to happen, not what needed to happen, how I felt. And in 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, gather yourself back up. Let's identify what the real problem is, which I got to kind of think about that on my walk. And let's let the rest go. Here's the thing. Most of us now recently have been taught that emotions are the key to the gateway to healing. Well, emotions are a lie, because emotions are built off something from the past. And it's a trigger typically from something that happened yesterday. So when I ask what's making us sick, and when I speak about control, and that everything needs to go a certain way, and your emotional health is now tied to your past healing, like, that is not detachment. We're so addicted to our emotions, and we're so addicted to how we feel, that we are not taking steps. We are not taking action. One of the things that we'll be talking about in Heal is anxiety, depression. And one of the things about it, and this is what I notice in every single person's body that is either medicated for it, feels good. I shouldn't say feels good. Feels okay, tolerated, right? Or isn't medicated and feels like they're out of control, is that we've lost the obsession with life. We've created so much energy in our body, and we don't have an output. Like, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything about it. We aren't action takers. That's what's making us sick. One thing that's making us sick is, well, many things. I just said many things. Emotions aren't real, but you think they are. But they're tied to the past, and now you're trying to fix them or identify what it is. Well, that's actually just like old shit. Well, let's bring it to now, and let's see how much the emotion gets triggered off right now. Right now. Ooh, okay, so I feel some of that. I felt some of that on that walk. Holy macaroni. I haven't had a walk like that. I didn't know that was like that. It's not past. That was very solution oriented. I came in and I'm like, whoa, this is not going to be, this isn't going to happen anymore. And this is how I feel. And we're going to start to move through this and start to create action. But what makes us sick is we have all of those feelings and all of those emotions and we don't do anything. We don't speak them. We don't speak them to someone, not at someone, to someone to create solutions, and then we do not take the action. So emotions, that they're not friggin' real. Control, like the opposite of attachment, the opposite of surrender, the opposite of the end of your life. It took her 6 weeks of being in severe pain to actually let go. Oh my gosh. I think of like, oh, how do we start to do this better? How do we start to live better so that we can understand what our body's telling us? 3, I don't know, it's maybe more than 3. What's making us sick? Focusing on the past instead of now. Focusing on the past instead of the future. What if, this is with Dr. Ben Hardy's work. He has many books. And this book was, I don't know. He was one of my mentors also. 10x is easier than 2x was the book. And so I've been in this lesson, I don't know, his teaching for 2 years. And it's all about learning to create your now through your identity of your future actually creates your past. So instead of past, present, future, we go future, present, past. That's what actually creates how you see your past. That it's about reframing it. It's about reshaping it. It's about seeing it where there's always a silver lining. That's how we heal. We're really addicted to trauma and to trauma patterns. But if we're not doing anything about it, if we're not changing anything, if we aren't creating our identity and who we are on the future first, filtered through the now, like now is where you actually do the work, that creates a very different past than, oh, this is my past. It's pretty shameful. There's a lot of hard stuff. Everybody has a lot of hard stuff. So figure out how you're going to reframe it. So that's a silver lining. That's your edge. That's your unfair advantage. That's part of why we're sick. Because what we're focusing on is the past. Next, perfectionism. That we don't start until it's perfect. Shame is a derivative of perfectionism. Not starting is a derivative of perfectionism. Not finishing most everything. When you feel like it needs to be just right. When you feel like you need more details in order to start. You are over-engineering your life. Over-engineering won't get you anywhere. It definitely will not make you happy. Over-engineering, overthinking, over-planning, screw it. Live it. Start to live bigger. By the way, I'm a systems girl. So I understand the need for it, but I'm also an artist. And there are many more times than what we would understand to be true that the plan needs to be done. It needs to be blown up. Let's just try this. Let's go here and do this. Let's plan an impromptu, spontaneous trip. Let's try something new. Because that changes your nervous system. When we started today, it was all about regulation and awareness. That regulates your nervous system by trying new things. It might feel like it's dysregulated. But there's always, when we have new experiences, we start to regulate in a very different way. Next, what's making us sick? Shame. Repressed emotions. Shame leads to repression because, like, we're going to squash that. I was just reading a book, and it talked about parenting, and that this parent was suggested every time her 15-month-old toddler had a temper tantrum, she was suggested to, like, spray cold water in his eyes, in his face. And it was spoken that he never had a temper tantrum again. Enter repressed emotions, right? So think of how often we have these hacks and we have this like boom, boom, boom. The power is actually to feel the emotion, it's to feel the feeling, and it's to feel it quickly and then move. It's not to repress it. It's not to not voice it. It's that we don't only focus on that. We focus on that being a voice and a message for us. We don't focus on that being the answer. Because if the only thing we're doing is digging up our past, it's going to get pretty rocky. We're going to stop wanting to live. Because if we think every single thing that we're doing today is going to be another bucket of what we need to sift through in the past, like I don't believe it's helpful. I'm not saying that working on trauma isn't helpful, but I am talking about focusing on that being your only leverage point is not helpful. Many of us are meant to put more intention, more focus, more presence into like the rocket ship, into the action, into the what are we going to do today that's going to change it all? Like, what can I do today to bring me joy? Like, how can my body start to light up? That's how we heal. But we haven't prioritized that. We've prioritized past trauma, we've prioritized addiction, we've prioritized anger and fear. Oh gosh, fear. Like, everybody's scared of fear. We've prioritized shame and judgment and resentment and sitting with it, or, well, God is trying to teach me a lesson, so I better just figure out this lesson before I start to move again. That's not true. That is not true. That is what your mind says is true. That's what your beliefs from your past have been created to right now, but we get to change that in 1 second. Think of how quickly we can change a belief with one conversation. Well, I've probably shifted a lot of your beliefs today. One conversation, one like, oh my gosh, I haven't ever thought of it that way. Now we have more awareness to what your body's saying, to what your mind is saying, to what your heart's saying, to what your gut is saying. Other things that make us sick is not being honest with yourself. And it's interesting, the longer I coach and mentor in the deep way that I do, dishonesty isn't anything that is purposeful in the beginning. It's not like we're thinking like, oof, we're gonna keep this under wraps. Now, maybe there are a few things, but underneath that is the fear of like, okay, if I actually want to untie this bow and not keep this under wraps anymore, I'm actually afraid of all the things that are gonna come out after that. The person that is the most unscrew-withable, let me find another word. The other word is a much funner word, but it has profanity. You can't screw with a person who has nothing to hide. You can't. Like, there's no skeletons in the closet. And if there are skeletons in the closet, that person is okay with all of them. There is no shame, there is no hiding. So recognizing what would it be like to really tell yourself the truth? To tell the truth about everything. And we can just start one little piece at a time, right? When I do these workshops, when I do free workshops, even in Heal, like, it is very much bringing concepts to you for you to do the work. If you move into more things with me, live event, it's going to be a little bit more of a deep dive. Any program, mastermind is full deep dive. One-on-one is like full deep dive times 10. It's now learning how to do the work. So what to do? This gives you a roadmap of probably hours of personal development, of contemplation, of reflection, of like, where do you actually sit? What do you actually believe? Because how are we supposed to know the codes of our body if we don't know all of these belief systems? It's all anchored onto that. Next, actually, and last of the what's making us sick is limbo. It's probably one of the most underestimated emotions. It's one of the most underestimated areas of the body that hold energy. So the energetics aren't flowing, is limbo. It's thinking. Like, how much do you have to friggin' think? It's limbo in, is this a yes or a no? Should I go or should I stay? Should I invest or should I not? Limbo is making us more sick than people think. Limbo is one of the most common things I feel in people's body. It's uncertainty in self, insecurity in self, not trusting that the next step is just the next step. Like, don't make it mean something that it doesn't need to mean. Like, it doesn't mean anything other than the meaning that you put on it. That doesn't mean you're a good or bad person. Make the decision. There is no mistake. There is no failure. It's all mistakes. It's all failures. However you think about it doesn't matter. That's where the silver linings are. The silver linings are in the action. They're not in the waiting. They're not in the holding. They're not in the wondering. They're not in the limbo. Limbo makes our body crazy. It makes our mind crazy. Just think of those like moments that you've been in, that you've been cluttered. Cluttered mind, cluttered house, cluttered closet, cluttered car. And you clean that out. Or you speak to somebody and you're like, okay, I have all this stuff in my mind. I just need a download. Let's figure out, let's make some of these decisions. By the way, this still happens to me. Of course it does. I'm doing new things all the time. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I do know, though, when it's time to go, it's time to go. Now, I've had the flip side. It wasn't that long ago, a few months ago, I couldn't make a decision if my life depended on it. Every single person on my team is like, Tiff, you just need to decide. It felt like there was so much on the line. There wasn't. It was just decide so we can start to navigate. Just decide so we can start to adapt. Just decide so we can start to grow again. Limbo stops everything. Oh my, it's 31 minutes. So I'm going to wrap up. 2 things. That is the foundation to decoding what your body is telling you is regulation and awareness. Awareness meaning all this stuff. Regulation, how do you handle all of it? The goal is not to be calm in a parasympathetic state with nervous system regulators. No, you gotta train your body how to do that. You gotta train your mind how to do that, and your heart and your soul, like every single part. So many times we overgeneralize personal development. We oversimplify the work that the people who are doing the work did. It wasn't easier for me than somebody who hasn't started. I just committed. I just said, yes, I'm all in. Yes, I'm going to go. I'm going to commit to the person that is going to be found out about, the person that is going to become as I'm continuing to go through these parts of life. And the goal is to not just be calm, it's to be regulated. It's to be able to adapt. It's to be obsessed with life, to focus on happiness. Oh my gosh, like, can we focus on the shit that makes us happy? It's to be and make clear, quicker decisions. More gut, less thinking, detachment, letting go, surrender, kind of like that story that I shared, versus stuck on everything. Feeling it, not being it. Feeling it, not dwelling on it. Acceptance of self, not judgment of self anymore. And the goal is to know all of the voices of you. In Heal, this week I'm going to break down the voices. I'm going to break down certain things in our body. I'm going to break down the human experience. Because, yeah, we can go through this and we can do some of the work. But I also know there's a very experiential part of this, of transformation, of feeling it and like, ooh, is this what this is? So I want you to just share, like, what did you get? What were your ahas here? And then I'm going to keep talking just for a few minutes. But what were your ahas? What will you walk away with? What are you excited for Heal for, to go deeper? What was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this. I didn't recognize this. I didn't see this. What will you change right after this? So Heal will be really about the human experience. And, you know, that's what I do. I curate containers, I curate rooms that people can show up and be honest and truthful. I cannot make you. So the more honest, the more truthful, the more anybody is when they show up and they get to do that, the more powerful. I am a chiropractor. I'm a medical intuitive. The definition of the word is like, I can see, read, feel your whole life through your body. I see things in ways, which is why when you get adjusted, there most of the time I'm having very different conversations, or I'm asking very different questions, or I'm focusing on a totally different area of the body. But what I recognized 2, 3, 4 years ago is that's part of the chiropractic adjustment, but that's not part of personal development and what'll take you to the next level. That's your work. And if you want that work to be with me, then it is in paid containers. It's in deeper work. The Align Life Live event is November 2nd. It's all day. I have 4 extraordinary friends and speakers that will be there. It's from 8 to 6. So I say, like, hey, we get each other for 10 hours. Like, imagine what can happen when you're actually in the room, when you're in the energy, when you're committing to yourself, when you're all in. There's payment options and there's prepay, and the price is going to go up, I think, this weekend or next week. But you should all be in the room. Like, that's what it's all about, is how do we trump limbo? We make decisions. We say, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to claim this, and I'm going to find the people that can help me get there. Because it's likely you've claimed it before, but you maybe haven't had the support. You maybe haven't had the beliefs to, like, really lean into that edge. That's the key. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for us. That's actually what changes homes. I started chiropractic because I wanted to impact kids. I wanted to work with families, and I wanted to be part of a community. And then I got into it because I love the brain and I love the mind and I love, like, transformation. I was like, oh my gosh, just adjusting one person in a family will change a family, because it changes the energetics of a family. But my, oh my, if you can impact the mom or dad, their health, their beliefs, how they do life, how they take risks, how they follow their dreams, can you imagine, like, how much their kids learn from them? Kids learn by energetics first. They don't learn by what you say. They don't learn by what you do. They learn by how you feel. They know when something's wrong far before we know something's wrong. That's what we get to change. That's what decoding your body, that's what that means. It's decoding it so you can understand fully who you are. And then imagine what happens when we start to bring our gifts to the world as we continue to learn, as we continue to evolve. So join me tomorrow night. Well, if you're listening, this would be Wednesday the 9th. If you're on replay, that's what I meant to say. The 9th and the 10th I'll be live, and there will be some surprises in there, of course. There's always surprises. And there will be surprises if you're live, so even better. I hope to see you there. I hope to see you in the room. This is the most transformational work we can do, is understanding our body, understanding all the voices of our body and our life. Like, that's it. Oh my gosh, that's it. So keep doing great work in the world. Keep focusing on being obsessed and happy in what you're doing. Keep focusing on the present moment and the next moment instead of what already happened. Keep focusing on health and healing and nature and sun. Keep focusing on your gifts and what you're meant to give to the world in a very non-traditional, unconventional, disrupting normal kind of way, because the world actually doesn't favor the ones who stand out, but the ones who stand out actually change the world. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is the next iteration of really helping you see your body and what's to come next. I love you all.